It's 5 o'clock. I'd like to call the Safety Committee and the Streets Committee joint meeting to order. First on our agenda is to get a report from Administrator Ming regarding the TDOT update at Main, Post, and Clark.
So yesterday we met with TDOT and they did not necessarily provide much information as far as what they suggest that we do on Post Road, other than a speed table or a speed hump. And a speed bump is about that wide, speed table is about, or a speed hump is about that wide. And then a speed table is as long as a normal car. So they suggested we try one of those going up Post Road between DC Tire and Sunset. They do, they're kicking around the idea of reconfiguring that intersection, but that wouldn't happen for a couple of years. So they really hesitated to say anything outside of that immediate area as far as what they would do on Post Road.
So, I mean, I think some of the concern was that actual intersection and the traffic configuration that's going in there. So that'll be a few years.
Yeah, so if we, they suggested that we get them a sketch of what we talked about. They would take it, convert it to a drawing, and then put together some different scenarios. And from there, they would send it to Upper Cumberland Development District, to the RPO, to get on the list for funding.
One of the things Nolan and I talked about today, what they suggested was getting rid of the turning lane. So everybody had to come stop, or not stop, but make a turn, right-hand turn, either on Clark Boulevard or going up Post Road. But they would have to come make that turn like that, so they couldn't do it very fast. But that's going to be 2 or 3 years down the road. I like this idea of the traffic table, because if you put it down close to DC Tire, but not, right in front of DC Tire, you're going to slow people down.
Yeah, and
That's where you accelerate, is right there at the foot.
No,
So just before we, if we can, I want to try to separate these issues just a little bit, because they're all kind of connected, but in regards to that intersection, is there anything that we can do at this point related to that intersection?
no.
not as long as the state controls the highway.
The only things that I've thought of is, I mean, I don't know how, because we have domain over Clark and Post, correct? So, I mean, there would be potentially something that we could do there, whether or not we have a stop sign coming down from Post, or whether or not there's traffic coming off that yield. Do we allow them to go up Post, or are they required to turn right? I mean, those are things that I thought of that could be change that traffic pattern at that intersection as well, and reduce the traffic that's crossing across Post and Clark.
Make Post one way then.
You don't necessarily have to have it one way. You could take a right off of Clark up Post Road. But if you made it required a right-hand turn on Clark, you wouldn't have that zipping up traffic. They'd have to take a right. Well, I mean, if it's on Clark, I mean, out at the mall, there is that divider. I don't really know why it's there. That divides the right-hand lane from the left-hand lane. But that would be something that would be, I was really hoping to have TDOT's expertise in this matter, but that would eliminate that yielding off and zipping up traffic.
Make everybody
Turn right.
everybody.
You'd have to turn right on the Clark. Essentially, you'd be turning right on the Clark versus.
So, for example, Scott McCord would have to go all the way up Ridgecrest and back down around to get to his house.
Correct. And he doesn't mind that.
That's an example.
Yeah,
There's
that's
12 other people up there
yeah.
with the same problem.
Yeah.
Well, are we gonna keep stop signs? Because I've not heard anything but complaints about those.
I don't
Well-
think they're slowing anything down, not where the problem is. The problem is going up the hill. That's where people are doing the most speeding, I think. It's just coming off the West Main. Of course, like I said last time, the only thing that's ever gonna really solve this problem, other than changing the intersection, is put sidewalks in so people can get the heck out of the road when they're collecting their mail or running or whatever it might be.
I mean, that's a great question. If we had sidewalks there, would we be having this conversation? And I think, and that's why I'm interested in the streets committee, because we have other roads that are like this, that are in a similar situation. We're just not talking about them. But I do think we need something that's more than just this street. It needs to be somewhat citywide, an assessment of streets that don't have, you look at Sunset going out towards the bypass, that it's got reduced vision, limited area. There's no place for pedestrians to go. The speed limit's 30 miles an hour there. And pedestrians are stuck.
The reason I like the table idea is because we could buy one for $3,000, bolt it to the road. If that doesn't solve the problem, we haven't spent a whole lot of money, time, or effort in doing anything else. And we can still continue paralleling with TDOT or whoever to change the intersection. But if that solves the problem, then, you know, I think it will slow people down once they bounce across that side.
Do we have any more discussion on the intersection of Main, Post, and Clark?
Well, yeah, if we have to wait on TDOT for anything, or. Don't hold your breath. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I see it before we get on to, so we'll go into the East End Post Road, Sunset stop sign and the traffic along there. I would like to open it up there. I see some Post Road residents. Any Post Road residents wish to comment today?
We are Post Road residents for 30 years, along with several other people in here that use that street. And it is not a residential street. It is like a thoroughfare to the Civic Center. And I personally walk that street every day along with Dan, and we've had to take to the ditch many times. People fly on that road, and they are not residents of that particular, area. So,
With the stop sign, I think it's slowed people down, the stop signs.
yeah, it has slowed people down, and I think
And I think as word gets out, many people use it as a shortcut. It's shorter to go on Post Road than go around National Highway. And especially when I was going out, or maybe coming in too. If people are coming in, they cut off there on Post Road, so one Civic Center, going to the elementary school or something like this, they'll bust through there rather than work on National Highway. And, but I think the stop signs, I don't think there's been too many cars now. And they're not going, to me, they're not going fast. I hadn't had to take the ditch for a while in the last couple of weeks. So I think it's a little better than me.
With the stop signs, you mean?
But yeah,
the people are running through the stop signs. So,
well,
I mean, the city could make some
when you
money.
put the signs up, stop ahead, I think that cured a lot of that. Give people a little heads up. And that's a lot of use. You don't use that street every day. You use it to pass, you're not ready for a stop sign.
Thank you all. Are there any adjacent residents to Post Road that would like to speak?
I'm just interested. It sounds like you have this situation assessed pretty well. I don't think the stop signs are going to address the issue. I think that the intersection on coming off West Main going up Post Road, that's what has to be addressed. I hadn't thought of the idea that you mentioned, as long as the residents didn't mind driving around, that would come closer to slowing the traffic down.
And it would lead the traffic down Clark, which does have a sidewalk.
And so that, as long as, but I'd like, just from my perspective, if I lived on that street, I wouldn't want you to do that without consulting. Because I think, if the, most of the people in West Main have entrances to Post Road in West Main. But the people on the other side of Post only have one entrance and exit. And so,
My person would be opposed to changing Post Road is current configuration, not letting you go, west on it, go east. I would be opposed to that.
So one thing before it should be in all your spec. I've gotten a significant amount of feedback, and before I go through that, I want to make one more comment. In there also is the TDOT guidelines on speed limits. This came from the traffic engineering PDF. And what's really profound to me is you look at the speed limit, and this is regarding the risk of fatality for pedestrians aged 15 years or older. At the speed limit, at the speed of contact at 20 miles per hour, there's a very minimal to zero risk of fatality. When we come up to 40 miles an hour, one study is showing a 60% chance of fatality. We have sidewalks and the people aren't in the road. That risk goes significantly down. We don't have to worry about the speed. But, anywhere from 30% risk of fatality to 60% risk of fatality. I thought that was pretty profound. And I think that addressing this not only on this street, but making sure that we have some type of proactive strategy to know where we need to put sidewalks in and be proactive in that, not waiting for tragedy to happen. So with that, all of this feedback that I've received, I distributed a letter, been doing some things on social media as well to try to get feedback. Each one of these letters is a different person that lives in the hundreds of Post Road, 300s of Post Road, 600 of Main, and then other neighbors that are, adjunct to that area. There's two others that came in since this list. There was somebody from actually the Bryants here, that we're very much in favor of the stop signs. I'm one of the people who have had to jump in the ditch to being hit. It's a wonder Dan hasn't been plowed over. Motorists use the street as a cut through, and when they fly, I had a text conversation with a lady who lives past Oak Hill, and I mentioned to her, I said, she had complained about the stop signs, and I mentioned, I said, yes, we're going to look at the intersection, and I said, and she had mentioned the bridge, and I said, well, we're also going to look, we'll mention that to TDOT, that other intersection. And she says, no, just the bridge. I want it wider. And she says, and down at Main and Post and Clark, I don't want anything done with that either. What she wants to do is zip all the way through and go up there. And I didn't communicate this to her, but really the main way she should be is staying on 70 all the way to the other side of Post Road and zipping up Oak Hill. So even whether it's people racing to beat a car, which Danny Cantrell has told me they do, because they're behind a slow car and zip up Post Road, or trying to get to the back side of the neighborhood, should be using the main street as far as they can. The other one is on Garfield, in favor of slowing down traffic down on Post Road, and are in favor of the stop signs. Thank you for these efforts. And I think that's the theme. It's really about slowing the traffic down. So obviously I didn't specifically address, speed tables versus stop signs. But there is a lot of data from those if you've reviewed it. So I think this no favoritism towards stop signs is not exactly accurate when we look at people that are living on Post Road. It's people that are not living on Post Road that seem to have more of an issue with it. So with that, I think I'd like to bring it up to have more discussion regarding the front side of Post Road and then into the second side of Post Road, and welcome more conversation.
I think the stop signs may slow it down on the far end of Post Road, like Dan said, but still have the issue coming off Main Street. That's where we really have the problem right now. And whether we do anything with those stop signs or not, people don't like them right now because it's something different. And they got it, and it slows them down. I don't think anybody that's going to their house cares where they're slowing down, because they're slowing down anyway, to turn in the right. I, like I said, I still would like to see us maybe get one of these tables, $3,000, and bolt it down and see what it does. If it doesn't do any good, we've only spent $3,000, but we've done something immediately. That's the only reason I suggested it, is because it does something now.
The only thing I've heard people say they didn't want more than they didn't want stop signs or speed bumps or humps or whatever, tables or whatever. That's been, to me, the number one thing that people said they do not want. And I think whoever's requested the second study, and a lot of people out there don't even know, I didn't even realize we had one, but they did a traffic study both before the stop signs were there and after. And I looked through them today, both of them, and the maximum speed in the second study after the stop signs were put in, went up by 9 miles an hour. The average speed came down by 1 mile an hour. No, the average speed stayed the same. The median speed came down by 1 mile an hour, and the 85th percentile went up one after. So those points right there, I don't see that we've changed one thing. And I'm assuming that this speed detection was set up in the same place both times. Is that correct?
So I did request that, and I got this in late. I did this Thursday evening. Was not able to get this in your packet. So I'll read it to you the best that I can. So when we compare study 1 to study 2, the first one had 152 hours of study. This was over the New Year's holiday. It had New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and then the rest of that week. And then the second one had 919 hours. There's a total of over 5,000 vehicles with both of them. Vehicles per hour average was 36 vehicles per hour in the first one and 53 vehicles per hour in the second. 50, that's a vehicle every minute. I mean, so to somebody walking down that street, they're gonna pass a vehicle more than likely. Between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. in these studies, they had almost 200 people that were over the posted speed limit. When we look at the percentage of speeders greater than 30 miles an hour, the first one was 45.5%, and the second one was 41.95. So about a 3.5% decrease in those going over 30 miles an hour. So that's not a huge percentage. But it is a percentage drop in the number of speeders. And those going over 40 miles an hour, it went from 2.3 to 1.3. So we had a 1% decrease in those going over 40 miles per hour. So so there is a percentage difference in decrease. So same place, same assessment of per hour. There has been a 3.5 that are not going.
But there's been no change whatsoever in the average speed.
Correct.
There's been an increase in the median speed. I mean, what? We haven't done anything.
Well, no, we have. There's the percentage going over 30 miles an hour is less.
By about 2%, but the average speed,
3.5.
So what's the goal? I mean, like when you run these traffic studies, what are we shooting for? I mean, we're trying to get the average speed to go down. We're trying to get 0 speeders at all.
Well,
I mean,
I think to me, the answer would be get people off the streets. And what's our time frame with that? I mean, speed table, I mean, how much does $3,000 a sidewalk cover us? I mean, does it get us 20 feet up the road? To me, we don't even have to put anything on the street. Get people off the streets. Is that a possibility? And if so, what's the time frame of that?
yeah, I mean, everybody would like to have sidewalks. I mean, I don't think you'll get any argument there.
I think the acceleration point is right there by DC Tire. I think that is where people hit it to go up that. It's like a ramp. It's like Woodbury. That's where you kick it, you go up and you keep going. This post and Garfield intersection, if you go look at it, now that new home has a sign here and a sign here on each side of the house. When they back out, they're backing out into the middle of three-way stop. And that just, I just don't think that makes a whole lot of sense right there. I think that's not a good thing. And if we're gonna focus on this, where I think the acceleration point is, I think that's right at DC Tire, and I hate speed bumps. I go
Yeah.
around.
I don't understand why we can't lower the speed limit. As soon as you say that, everybody says, nobody will obey it. It works in a school zone. Granted, you have to have yellow lights and police there patrolling it, but in a school zone, you have virtually almost no one who speeds. So I don't see how we can't lower the speed limit and at least lower the average speed by a significant amount. I mean, that's the easiest thing, period, we could do, is lower the speed limit.
I don't disagree with you on the speed limit. My comment to you last time was maybe a little bit overreaching when I said, are you considering that citywide? I mean, I do think that there is an issue, but my problem with it, we talk about spot zoning. That's a spot speed zone. I feel like we need to be a little bit consistent throughout neighborhoods with the speed limit.
It's a more dangerous street than normal. I mean, that spots, there's other streets in town where the speed limit's 20. It's not the only one. I can't name them, but they're out there.
Caldwell used to be.
What?
The street going up to
For the middle
Oh,
school.
the middle school.
Clearview and Roosevelt. There's good examples of streets that they're safer streets because they're flatter. There's not as much obstruction. You do have some, but I have two friends that live on Clearview and they're constantly complaining about people speeding. It's mainly people that live on that side of the bypass, the north side. They don't want to get on the bypass, so they tear down Clearview and Roosevelt. But they don't have anybody on the board.
We put a stop sign at Roosevelt. We put a stop sign at Roosevelt about 6 months ago. That was a request from the neighborhood.
But
I don't have any problem in lowering the speed limits because if nothing, it can't hurt you. And I don't worry about, nothing around there else being 20 miles an hour because this is an unusual case. This is just a dangerous road. There's no sidewalks on it. We probably will put sidewalks on it pretty quickly, but that's still 6 months out. With a new budget and doing it, I mean, we could go ahead and do it today and just, find the money to do it. I don't think we'd have any trouble finding the money. But still, if we started today, it's going to be 3-4 weeks before that's all done. And how far do you go? You just go to the top of the hill? I don't know. And if you're telling me that the stop signs do make a difference, then I've got to think about, because I was ready to come here and say, hey, just rip the stop signs down. Let's start all over again. But if they are helping, okay. You think the stop signs at Garfield are any better or worse than stop signs up at Clark Boulevard?
People come off National Highway and they start up that hill and they fly. And they do the same thing the other direction.
Okay.
They accelerate by DC Tire, they get up here at the top and then down the hill they go. And
coming back the other way, they accelerate up there to Garfield. I don't see that they stop signs hurt anything.
I don't think putting a lower speed limit is gonna matter unless you have a police officer there to enforce it. I mean, they're just gonna ignore that.
That would be worth a try.
I think
Lower
so.
the speed limit,
I think
instead
so.
of flashing lights.
Yeah.
And enforce it.
And somebody sitting.
Well, I mean, it actually,
Right.
you actually get that protection the whole way, as where a stop sign is certain segments. I mean,
They can speed between
I
stop
still,
signs.
I still look at the data and I see that, I mean, to me, we haven't changed.
Please pass that down to Steve.
Could I
I
have
mean,
just,
I get what you're saying, that.
And I'm not arguing again. What I'm saying is I wanted to know was the stop sign at Sunset, was that effective? I think it had an effect. Is that a solution? I don't think so. Do I agree with considering the reduction of the speed limit? I do. I agree. There's something else needs to be done. And we can also, with the risk of, letting everybody know, we could put the speed limit in and we could do another study at the same spot and to see if that's been effective and how much that makes a change for us. I think that gives us some objective data and feedback.
I mean, you had one thing that said the percentage of people going over 40 miles an hour dropped like 2%. There were about 3 other pieces of data: average speed, median speed, and 5th percentile speed all stayed the same or even dropped after the stop signs were there. I just don't see what we've done.
This was not statistically significant.
I think the only thing that the speed limit doesn't address very well is that people can still speed. And if you want a diversion, I think, looking at that 53 people an hour driving on that street, that's a lot of people for a neighborhood street. So if that traffic was diverted down Clark or staying on Main and 70, that would reduce the risk of somebody getting hit. So does the speed limit deter people of using it as a pass-through?
How many wrecks have we had there in the past 10 years?
We've checked since 2017, as far back as we have been.
I mean, I would be concerned about that because we're going to wait for somebody to get hit. I like being proactive. I like the fact that we want to, that we can, with the streets and the safety, we can look at other areas of the city and determine other areas, other streets that are just like this that need some attention. I mean,
Why is the number of vehicles per hour so much different in these two studies? One's 36, the other one's 53.
the first one was probably related to the fact that it was a holiday weekend. It was New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. I'm sure a lot of people took off at the second.
What is 10 mile per hour pace? There's a number for that. I didn't know what, does anybody know what that means?
Oh, that's-
But I think speed, we're focusing on speed and I appreciate that. I think that, I mean, obviously when I shared that TDOT study that talks about percentage of fatality, I mean, that brings the risk of fatality down. But, also changing the amount of traffic on that street will reduce the risk of incident as well.
I mean, the whole idea is to reduce risk of fatality. I mean, that's
Correct.
That's the whole reason for all of this. And from 30 miles per hour, you go from 10% to 20 miles per hour, you go to basically 0%. And what, the speed limit to me is the way to do that.
It has a factor in it, absolutely. I would say that would probably be the easiest. I mean, like you mentioned, it's one of the easiest things for us to do. We thought the stop signs putting that in would be easy. It was easy, but not emotionally, I think, from the regress that we've gotten from people. And if that's not effective, then I would say that going to something more, that would be more of a deterrent and would lower the number of people traveling on that street would probably be my next suggestion.
Yeah, I think starting off with the speed limit, and then if that doesn't work, look at putting a speed table by DC Tire and another one on the other side down by the bridge or somewhere in between there. I mean, that way they can't go fast starting either way. But I mean, it may take more than one approach to get it done.
I just don't like not letting people go up Post Road if we can help it, where they've got to turn on Clark, go up Ridgecrest, come back down. I really don't like that solution.
No.
But
I made the suggestion, but that doesn't mean I agree with it. With that being said, do we have a motion to reduce the speed limit
Yes. That's fine.
to what?
To what is it now?
It's 30 right now.
20? 20? 20? What do you guys think?
I'll look for some guidance from our professional officers.
We have other 20 miles an hour speed limits in town. I know we have some 25s.
We've got a 25 on West Main Street, but that's the, years ago, Caldwell Street was actually 15 miles an hour from Chantry to Spring Street. That's when they didn't have school.
That's people who were walking back and forth to school.
What's Caldwell now? 25, 30?
I think 20, I think 20 should go an average of 5
I'll second
over. So, thank you.
Which the way that is right now, we're gonna probably go a little bit over, so. They're, the average is 30, or 85% of it is 34. The speed limit being at 30. So if you move to, 20 or 25, you figure 25 to 30 be your average. More than likely, but if that, when you get it lower, we can monitor it as well, put the speed tables out, we've got motorcycles striped up, so we start, issuing tickets, and, it's easier for motorcycles to sit on that road in that area than it is a patrol car. Because of the way of the road, they can't really sit on the side, around.
There is no side.
Yeah, because there is, but, so we can use the motorcycle, stuff, so we can monitor it that way.
I make a motion for 20.
I seconded it, and maybe we could revisit it. too.
Yeah,
The whole way,
we gotta start somewhere. Yeah.
end to end.
And I think, and that's, with that, that back end, I'm really curious because the Bryants have said they come off so quick.
Mhm.
And it may be that we kind of study it in two parts and we may need a, speed table back there, but not up at DC tires. So, man, we can spend money based on speed tables based on where we have an issue, if there continues to be an issue. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
And we're not going to mess with the stop signs right now then.
well, we can bring that up for discussion.
I'm just saying leave them there for a while. The 20-mile-an-hour thing may end up making them useless if everybody sticks to the 20-mile-an-hour. But
I mean, if we want to look at, the feedback here in terms of the stop signs, trying to see if there's anything related directly to the Garfield.
It's number 2.
it does not like the stop sign at Garfield.
Yeah, that's directly in front of the house. That's the one related to what you're saying. There's hopes it stops the traffic, slows the traffic. My family can't back out of our driveway because of the speed there. Again, if it's 20 miles an hour and it's being enforced, I think that stop sign is a tough one. I know that somebody mentioned to me when they come down Garfield and the Post Road, they have a hard time because of visibility on that corner. And the speed is the issue that they're concerned about. In terms of that stop sign, I do agree that that one right there becomes a little bit less effective. There's not as much of a visibility issue as you have at the top of Post Road. When you're coming and you're trying to see cars coming from both ways, I do feel like traffic stopping at that stop sign is helpful because as they come over from Tim's up to the top of the hill, you might be starting to pull out from Sunset on the post and do a double take, but I don't see that as being much of an issue on the Garfield and Post side.
One of the things that one of these things is that they were concerned about the lack of speed limit signs on Sunset. How many do we have?
On Sunset.
Well, it says Sunset. I'm sorry, on Post Road.
That comment
well
was
as
related to
Sunset.
the stop signs.
Yeah.
And immediately after I had that conversation, Administrator Ming and I discussed that issue and thank you to the Streets Committee for getting out there and putting the stop ahead signs. Just made those stop signs more visible because we did have an issue, but I've been watching it and I've not seen anybody run it since we had those stop signs, since the stop ahead warning signs there. But I think in terms of, on the Garfield side, I think if people aren't slowing down for 20, they're probably not slowing down for that stop sign. And I feel like ultimately a speed table might be more effective back there if we don't lower it. So I would not be opposed to removing that stop sign at Garfield
I
at
had
this
somebody
point.
contact me, kind of, what to think about it, because they didn't like the stop signs, and I mentioned, speed bumps or that thing. Well, don't put speed bumps in because it hurts my car. Well, if you don't speed, it won't hurt your car. So I'm not sure that those are good things to use for making the determination for removing time.
Well, I would make a motion that we remove the stop sign at Post and Garfield and keep the other one.
Both on both sides. There's two stop signs.
Second. I'll second.
Any further discussion? There's a motion on the table to remove the Garfield post three-way, and it would remain a stop sign on Garfield. Any further discussion regarding that motion? It'd be a one-way stop sign, not a three-way. Traffic coming on
My
Take
Garfield.
'em off
motion was to
Post
take
Road.
them all off at that place, at that spot where it creates this.
Yeah, but you don't want to take it off from Garfield.
Is it already there? Wait a
Yeah,
minute.
it's already there.
It's already there.
It's been there. You don't want people just running through that intersection.
Okay,
Removing the ones we just put in.
there you go. Thank you. That's my motion.
Any further discussion about that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So we will remove the stop sign at Garfield, and we will study the effectiveness of the speed limit change and consider further action in the future. There were a couple other areas that were mentioned. I just want to mention these to the Safety Committee and Streets.
One of the things first. If we're serious about putting sidewalks up Post Road, do we want to start now or do we want to wait for a new budget? New budget's going to be in another 5 months. If we want to put on sidewalks there, we'll find the money or we'll amend the budget. I'm not too concerned about finding the money. Otherwise, it's going to set us back 5 or 6 months. Start this.
Well, the finance chairman is not worried about the money. I say, let's do the sidewalks.
I'm not, it's not that I'm not concerned. I
Well,
just think
no.
we can find it.
Yes.
How much do we have a rough estimate of that?
How much is it per foot? Right. I'm sorry?
$12 per linear foot.
Okay. So how long is Post Road?
0.6 miles.
0.6.
That's what somebody quoted me. They didn't want to stop twice in 0.6 miles. So that's,
Let me measure it real quick.
One other issue I might add on that is I'm not sure what the right of way is, how large the right of way is. The right of way is narrow. We would be talking about potentially discussing with homeowners to either get an easement in that area, so that, or even potentially asking for that property that could affect the price of the sidewalk installation quite greatly. I don't know off the top of my head how large that right of way is. Be happy to look at that and report back as far as the feasibility of that. But I can tell you that if we have a larger right of way, the cost is definitely going to be lower than if we have a narrow.
Mr. Baird, one other question for you. Mine's actually a little bit adjunct. Go for it, Steve.
Frank, wouldn't you also say that since this sidewalk is going over the top of what's a pretty major water carrying ditch, that's gonna increase the cost significantly.
Got the
Because
tiles.
that's the thing, if we put it on the right side going up, you got the big steep hill, we're gonna have to cut people's yards back. We're gonna have to move the water lines, probably lower the sewer lines.
That's a 16-inch main. To the sunset. So that's a 16-inch main. If we did have to be a large cost. Something to consider, of course, with the 16-inch line, we're gonna have a 20-foot easement. So that's check.
I mean, I think the cost is gonna be a lot greater than just adding sidewalks.
The sidewalks, we just did, it. It's like $38,000.
Because I mean, going up Post Road, we're gonna have to put a drain in. Then do the sidewalk, we're gonna have to cut people's yards back. And like I said, move, you're gonna have to lower the water lines, lower the sewer lines. And everything, so. And it's not gonna be a 3 or 4 month project.
Why we have to lower the water and sewer lines?
Because the hill going up to the people's yards. I'm sure the water lines is not, that hill's probably 5 foot tall. And I'm sure the people's water lines are not 5 foot in the ground right there.
But we only need about, what, 12, 15 inches for the kind of sidewalk.
There's no water line going down there.
It's on the side.
That's it, but I'm on.
You're gonna get into the bank, which is what he's saying, which is.
I mean, cutting the hills back, that's gonna be I mean, you don't wanna have a sidewalk in a hill like this.
Yeah.
Right beside it. So.
I can see that. I mean, go down by Wally Bigby's house.
Yeah.
And, you know, you'd have to cut back into his yard, which I don't think that would be a problem with him or maybe other people down that way, but there is no road. You know, there's a ditch there and that's it, you know, unless you make the sidewalk 2 feet, wide.
And that's gonna be the issue as far as how far we're going into people's yards as far as easements goes, that you may have to actually take it past where the ditch is. So we're talking about a pretty substantial amount there. And there's some areas that I think you have to build up pretty substantially to even have the sidewalk. So when you add all the 3 costs that we're talking about, I think per your foot, we're talking about a higher cost per foot per sidewalk than your typical road.
What about the other side?
I think on both sides there'd be challenges based on driving it. But again, as far as the right of way, I'd have to look as far as the cost of that.
And that's the thing, though, putting the sidewalk in, it's gonna get the people out of the road. But we're still gonna have a speeding issue.
Yeah.
Because that's just gonna go open it up. That's my opinion. I mean, it'll open it up where people can see more. So. I mean, I think the best thing is issue the speed. I mean, address it, because I don't think the sidewalk, I mean, it will, I'm gonna say it does, it will help. But I just wonder how the speed will affect whenever you open that road up.
You would have the same issues on the other side, on the left-hand side. I know there's hardly any space between DC Tire and the road, but past that, there would be.
I mean, on down Garfield, it's probably better to be on the left side. Because you have a hill all the way until down. Go driveway. I mean, you have a hill the whole way. But in a deep ditch. So people look at doing the left side.
I think all of our services. With that side on the left, come on the street. Thing like on the right hand side. sign. So I'm not sure anything that comes off of that. It's got a certain
Yeah,
sign.
that's what I was gonna ask.
All the way down Post Road.
Not all the way. I'm talking about the first section up to Sunset. Basically. But we could look and see.
Yeah, if you could let us know what we're looking at here, because I don't care which side of the sidewalk is on as much. The only reason that there's more houses on the right-hand side that have to go to mailboxes and stuff like that, where people on the other side, they've got a choice between Post Road and West Main Street.
I think everything coming up to Sunset, everything gonna be on the right, and that's where our mains are two main lines are. Everything on the left. coming off.
Makes sense.
So
Can we commit to studying this and coming back to this and bringing back some data that you can use to make a decision?
in regards to that, do ARP funds fit sidewalks?
Not generally, no, but the way that we're using our ARP funding, yes.
So, I would like, I mean, we've been focusing a lot on this Post Road. But is there a way to study other areas, other neighborhoods that may have similar problems like this and be proactive and saying where we might need to change the speed limit, approach the neighbors about their concerns on those, be a little bit more proactive in problem areas. And obviously where they might need to have sidewalks.
Yeah, on the issue of sidewalks, one thing, I like how, as far as sidewalks itself, what I'd be happy to do is, I know in the past, you had some data on where accidents have been. I think that's a real first step, is to see where there actually have been pedestrian crashes, where there have been accidents, where the police reports have been, so we can see where there are issues. I would mention that also during our meeting with TDOT, they also came with us to a number of different intersections where we know we've had problems before, where there were issues, and we did discuss some potential ideas with them. So that's another thing just to add out. But I would say first step is I think you still do like the accident data. And I remember years ago when I was here, I partnered with Mike Lane on that. So I'm assuming he still does that. But I would say let us look as to see where we've had the high volume of pedestrian crashes. That always plays well when you're looking for grant money as well, because you have the data, you can show something. So I'd say that would be a first step as far as proactive.
We had a really nice bicycle study, the bicycle ability in the area, and that was done through a grant. But is there a simple way that we could do a pedestrian study to have citizens be able to say, these are areas I'm concerned about?
Yeah, and I would say we have had some progress on that front with one area that we knew was an issue for pedestrians was crossing the large highway Bobby Ray as far as where Walmart is. We do have a solution in the works for that. We met with consultants with Briggs and Maloney, I believe, who's working on that project. That's one area that we had identified in the past as being very problematic. But I would like to meet with the police and look to see where some of those other areas are and kind of report back as to what we might be able to do.
Thank you, Mr. Baird. Is there any other discussion to come before the safety committee?
I have a question. I don't know if this is the right time, but what determines whether decisions are committee decisions or board decisions in this situation? Is that just, I know when there's money involved, committees have limits, but in issues like these stop signs, it's not a money issue. It's a decision we make whether to do it. And I've never had so much feedback and contact from constituents on something that I didn't have I have a voice, but I don't have a vote. So I'm just curious what determines that, whether it's board or committee.
Well, not involving contractual undertaking or expenditure of public funds. It nevertheless is policy. And policy decisions in a very general sense are usually made by the board in its entirety. When you change the zoning code,
Speed limits have to go before the board.
right?
They do.
So
Speed limits.
safety policies, I would think, would be akin or analogous. So I would expect the full board to participate in those decisions.
The 20-mile-an-hour speed limit will have to come before the full board. The stop signs do not.
And I mean, and, you know, to some extent, you know, I was going to express my appreciation for you bringing this up to the board at the last meeting, because it has facilitated the conversation and furthered, you know, the situation there. So I think, you know, your voice is important, whether it's a vote or not, it's important. So I appreciate you sharing that. Anything else?
Yeah, I was just curious how that determination is made.
And also thank their local residents for coming out and participating as well. Thank you all. Anything further to come before the Streets or Safety Committee? That'll stand adjourned.
The Finance Committee will come to order. Got a couple of things on the agenda. Number one, back several months ago, when we decided to refund the Main Street, we put a little note on there that we would give them the first quarter's money, but we wanted to get an update as to what was happening with Main Street, with hiring a president or a director, and also, you know, just what they're doing to make everything back the way it should be with Main Street. And I think that they're doing that. I asked Raven Young to come. She's the president of Main Street, and to give you an update on that so that we can see about removing that prohibition on giving them the rest of the money. So go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I talked to Everett at our meeting last week, or Main Street's meeting last Tuesday. He asked us to come. I know I came a couple weeks ago, but several were sick. And Jennifer was actually sick too, so I wasn't able to formally introduce her. So I wanted to bring Jennifer with me so that y'all could meet her. She is now, was your third week with us, where she was with the chamber before. So a lot of you know Jennifer, but just within the 3 weeks that we've had her, she's made my life much easier. So I'm very glad to have her. And she has a event planning background. And so we are planning lots of events and new things for the new year. So we're really glad to have her. You want to say anything?
Oh, no, I'm just really excited. We've already been talking about Main Street Live, what we're gonna do this year, and we're doing another Taste of Downtown because that was really successful last year and a lot of people did it. We're gonna work on some of our membership drives coming. We're having a membership drive probably June, July this year. And just really excited about doing some other just fun events downtown to bring people. So yeah.
Yeah, Main Street Live we're already in full planning of that. We aren't releasing the bands yet, but we do have a list of guys that we have sent contracts out to. So hopefully we'll be able to release those soon once we get everybody's contracts back. So Main Street Live is going to be exciting this year.
What about the fall festival or whatever we call it now? October.
Oh, the Autumn Street Fair.
Autumn Street
Yeah,
Fair.
so that's leadership with the chamber that
Okay.
actually plans that event. But I know Jennifer worked with them while she was still at the chamber. And as far as I know, those are in full plans to happen, but Main Street doesn't actually plan that event.
Okay. Does anybody else on the Finance Committee have any questions for Main Street?
Welcome, Jen.
Thank you. We're happy to have her. Thank y'all.
All right.
Thank you.
Now we need to consider whether we're going to go ahead and release the rest of the funding or not. So let's say you've already approved the funding. It's just a matter of having them come and talk to us about it.
I'll make a motion that we do.
Second.
Okay. Motion is that we're releasing the rest of the funding for Main Street, which is the next three quarters of the amount. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Okay. All right. Next thing we have is discussing job descriptions for the separation of the recorder and finance director. I've had some looks at some of this. This is not complete. I'd like for the finance committee to look it over and then decide if they want to add, subtract, multiply, or divide some things to it. I don't expect an answer tonight, but we want to get this process started. And these are certainly not made in stone, but I wanted to throw these out here. We need to review them back with the charter and with the appropriate legislation that has created and maintained. No, not right now. I mean, unless somebody wants it. So again, if you want to look it over, fine. If you don't want to take it and look at it later and give us back some things, I'd like to hopefully wrap this up at the next meeting. One of the other things is that we need to, at some point in time, put in a job search, if you will, for a new finance director. I'm going to recommend that we let HR do that. The finance person reports to this committee, but we don't have the wherewithal to sit down and take it, resumes, that type of thing. So we can let those people do that, and let Libby work on that particular part of it. And
I'll
then,
need the job description finalized.
right,
As we post that.
right, I understand. But if we can finalize those for the next meeting, then I can give them to you, and then you can start posting them. And that way we won't have someone being temporary in this job for hopefully less than a month away.
So do we need to, so we have the jobs, we've got the job descriptions, we'll get those to Libby, that'll go off. But one of the challenges that we had was that Tim shared with us a couple of meetings ago was the whole process with the charter and everything like that. What steps, if we're gonna separate these jobs before we go out job hunting, do we need to finish up any legwork on that side?
Well, I've got some information on that. Let me find. I've got copies of both the charter and the code as it relates to that committee. Here we go. The charter says that the board shall appoint a treasurer. It says the board may appoint the recorder as treasurer, may. Okay. It doesn't say that will or may or shall or that type of thing. It says may. Then you go over to the 1995 ordinance that we passed that went to the state controller, and it said the recorder shall be elected beginning in time from 19 something or other. And it says shall. From what Tim has told me and what I would assume would be correct is that the charter would override anything that we passed.
It would, but you're not required to amend the charter in the undertaking.
No.
That you're describing.
No.
Because it was adopted, the operating manual that I passed out a meeting or two ago was the third thing I passed out. That policy and the policy manual were adopted by ordinance. So all that would be required to reorganize would be ordinance, not charter amendment.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. The charter says may, it doesn't say. that we
Yeah, the
have to.
charter, the charters.
Okay,
But I thought the most recent verbiage that was in the 2000s said that the city administrator is responsible for hiring all of the department heads, and that the board only oversees the city administrator, the city attorney, and the city recorder.
And the city recorder is also the treasurer.
but not now.
But not now.
Oh, we'll have to look into that. I haven't given
Look
it
into it and see.
consideration.
When the charter was written, they were one and the same. And I don't know if they used, it says the board in the charter, the board may appoint recorder as treasurer. I don't know if it says the board appoints the treasurer. I mean, not on the sheet that I have right here. Because again, back at that point in time, they were one and the same. There wasn't a thought, I guess, about if there were two separate people.
You know, you'll find, or I found in the charter, the municipal code, and the ordinance adopting the policy manual that was a mandate from the comptroller. There's little to no description of the treasurer, the treasurer's duties. It simply says that the treasurer will be appointed by the board, and it may be the recorder, or it may not be the same position. But that's just a technical thing to be looked at. It's not I don't view it as a major impediment. I think you can define the roles within the context of the requirements of the comptroller in whatever way you please. There are an infinite variety of organizational structures on the fiscal side of municipalities across the state. I'm sure there's lots of differences and lots of.
Okay. If you could research that for us, I would appreciate it.
Sure, but it is my opinion now that the charter will not have to be amended to do what you're contemplating.
Well, we just need to know if it addresses who hires whom and who reports to who.
Okay, I'll be happy to do that.
That's the thing that I want to see. We've obviously had the recorder / treasurer always report to the finance committee. Now, I don't know if it says reporter or they just assume they're all the same person and they just say one name. That's what I don't know.
Well, your existing code says the recorder reports to the finance committee. That's what
The
exists.
recorder, but what about the treasurer?
Treasurer is what.
Well, not having a separate office, although we have the separate title that Ms. Durham has occupied, as far as I know, since she's been in the position. There's no flesh on those bones. I'll have to look at it to answer your question coherently, because I'm not right now.
If it does report to the finance committee, I'm not really sure there's a need for a finance committee. But it's not like we're creating a kingdom here, but I think there's reasons why it should report to the finance committee. And I'm sure there's some reasons why should report through its admin. But, I'd like to get a feel for what you think, and what the charter and or the code says.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I've got a statement
Sure.
about this that I would like to read to the board. And it reads that when we began these discussions regarding the organizational restructure of this department, I was initially of the opinion that the treasurer of the city should report to the finance committee, and by extension, the board of mayor and aldermen. But after further consideration and research into the matter, I've begun to lean the other way. This board is a governing, not managing body. We were elected to set policy for the city of McMinnville and have those policies executed by the city administrator, not directly manage city employees ourselves. I understand that for some time the treasurer has reported to finance, but if we continue on this model and on this, train of thought that, having some of the oversight that we do, that we may as well relieve Mr. Ming of his duties along with each and every department director in the city. Mr. Sutton can assume the roles of police and fire chief. Rachel can, being very serious, assume responsibilities over Parks and Rec. Mr. Brock can be the treasurer. I will assume roles as the city administrator. Mrs. Brock will oversee streets and sanitation. Mr. Steve Harvey, Public Works, and Mr. Stacy Harvey, the Water and Wastewater Department. I can't speak for everyone, but I don't feel that this is what we were elected to do, nor do I have time with my family and obligations as a nurse. I know that there have been concerns expressed about checks and balances within the city if the city administrator were to begin directly overseeing the finance department, and I would attempt to assuage those concerns by pointing out several key points. One being that each purchase made by the city must be approved by department managers, the finance committee, or the board as a whole, depending on the purchase amount. All outgoing checks written by the city must be signed by two individuals, myself or Mr. Brock being one of those, and Mr. Ming is not an approved signatory. The budget process must be approved by finance and passed along to the board for adoption, no matter who reports to who. The city is audited twice a year, once by the state comptroller's office and another by an independent auditor, Denning and Cantrell. Members of the finance committee are not present on a daily basis at City Hall and would need to be so to offer guidance and direction to the department and the employees. The administrator, on the other hand, is already here, overseeing each and every other department within the city. It was asked by the finance chair a while back that research be conducted regarding other communities that follow this proposed model, and they are as follows. Hendersonville, Thompson Station, Spring Hill, and Laverne are obviously quite a bit bigger than McMinnville, but MTAS did provide us a list of several communities with populations ranging from 12 to 16,000 citizens, and those are Elizabethton, Arlington, Greenville, White House, Nolensville, Lakeland, Athens, Portland, Dixon, Dyersburg, and Lewisburg. Each of these municipalities has the treasurer of the respective community reporting to administration and not the board. I went a step further and made inquiries of local business entities regarding their reporting structures and found that the school system's budget and compliance manager reports to the superintendent, not the school board. The CFO of McMinnville Electric reports to Mr. Rodney Boyd, not the board of directors. The CFO of Caney Fork reports to Bill Rogers, not the board of directors. The CFO of Ben Lomond reports to Greg Smart, not the board of directors. The CFOs of Security Federal and First National Banks report to their respective vice presidents, not the bank boards of directors. The CFO of River Park Hospital reports to Dale Humphrey, not the hospital board of directors. The CFO of Bridgestone reports to the CEO. When consulted, Warren Nevat of MTAS commented and made the recommendation that treasurer should report directly to administration and not the city boards. And Francis O'Brien of his office also stated that the city of McMinnville is one of the, if not the only municipality that follows the structure that we do now, having the treasurer report directly to finance. At our last board meeting, a question was posed by Mr. Steve Harvey about traffic studies and why we conduct these and then fail to use the information we glean when making decisions regarding public safety. I feel the same question holds true here. Why would research be conducted on other municipal reporting structures if that information would not be considered here tonight or in the future? This again comes from opinions from state officials, a number of cities, municipalities, and businesses that follow a similar model that's being proposed here. And I would ask that the Finance Committee opt to recommend this model to the full board.
I'd like to make a comment on that. And I would venture to guess that if you were to poll the experience of all those CFOs out there, you would find that there probably have operated many organizations larger than this organization. And I would believe that that would be true, but I don't think Mr. Ming has operated an organization this size before. So it's, yeah. I mean, my budget's right about the same as the city.
With all due respect, Mr. Harvey, I think Mr. Brock did mention what's the purpose of the finance committee. We're not taking the finance committee out.
I'm not saying
The
that. I'm
administrator
just
still
gonna say
reports
that
to the various
But you
committees
can't
and to the
assume
board.
that the administrator has the skill to do the job because he's in the chair. That's my point. Just because he's here doesn't mean he's qualified to do it. That's my point. Just because he's here. You can't compare him to Dale Humphrey or the CEO of Bridgestone or whomever, all the different corporations that you listed.
Why?
What's the largest budget that you have been single-handedly responsible for administrating prior to your tenure with the city?
It was the community development budget.
Prior to your
Prior to
position in the city?
It would have been at the, in
Dollars,
Chicago,
dollars, annual dollars.
10 million.
And you were the CEO of that corporation?
No, I wasn't.
So what position did you hold?
Director of nationwide operations.
And did you handle the finance for that portion?
Are we doing a review of me? here?
I'm sure the mayor is making a comparison between this city and other cities and corporations. But those people have individuals in
this is
those
a
positions that are
discussion-
qualified for those positions.
This is a discussion about how we're organized and what our charter says.
Well, no, he drew a comparison to our city and to other
Well,
corporations.
he said a
And
lot
other
more than that
cities.
too.
That's correct, but
But we're
that's the
talking about,
assumption.
we're talking about the treasurer, not Mr. Main.
But they would report to him. So he would be the ultimate authority. He would be the yes or no in that department.
We are still the ultimate authority.
But not on
mayor and the board
a,
of
not on a
aldermen
day-to-day
still do.
basis.
But let's ask the same question. Has Zach overseen a multi-million dollar corporation? Has Mr. Harvey? Has Mr. Brock?
You
What
just
does it
made my
matter?
point. You just made my
So
point.
let's take financial advice from the guy whose business has gone bankrupt multiple times and you were just sued in county court for not paying your employees.
Well, number one, what? No, you're exactly wrong. You're exactly wrong. And you better be very careful.
Okay.
And that particular employee, I fired him because he came drunk to a meeting and he wrecked my truck.
It's not what they said in county court.
Well, I can guarantee you that's exactly what it is. And I countersued him and he won't show up.
Okay.
So if we're going to talk about that, be very careful. Be very careful because you just made a statement on the record that is factually incorrect. Two of them.
Okay.
Okay. Be very careful. Be very careful.
So I beg to differ. So anyway,
Yeah, I don't think this is whether the finance committee does this or not. I don't have any problem with the reporting structure. I do, because I think that even if we said that, okay, finance committee reports through the administration, I don't think that takes the finance committee out of the picture. If we do decide to do that, it's not a situation where the finance committee walks away. I mean, I said a few minutes ago, there may not be a reason to have the finance committee, but there really is now that I think about it. You still need to go through the budget process, which is not the administrator's position. I don't know exactly how that would interface, but I think that there's room for that to happen.
and I think that's why the finance committee obviously would still need to be in place. I don't see why the statement would have been made about not having the finance committee. I mean,
Well-
budgetary oversight would still be required.
But you also said if we take that away from him, there's no use for a city administrator, which is not, I mean, there's all kinds of things that he does besides
Yes.
that. So, I mean, that's the same
So what
We're-
kind of oversight would we be? Would they review it?
I think those are things that need to be decided. And, let's find out what Tim is. And then we can go from there. I'm not going to sit here and say that that we need to stay with the present structure. I do think that it's possibly a solution in search for problem. But I'll listen to anybody's ideas on this, just like, what you just had right there. And I'll listen to them, and then I'll decide which way I'm leaning for this thing. But I just don't see that it necessarily is a solution that's where we're doing anything to make it any better. I'll put it that way. Just because we've done it in the past doesn't mean that we need to change it for the future. At the same time, if there's a good reason to do it, then I'll be more than happy to support it.
I mean, I agree with Mr. Brock that the finance committee holds essentially gets the big picture to the administrator. What are the expectations of the budget this year? Then taking it towards the committee roles and then filtering it back through. So it starts with the finance committee, ends with the finance committee, and then a proposal to the board. I think the finance committee is still an integral piece there. I think the other aspect too is the hiring of the finance director. That's where we get our finance experience. That's where we go out and we find the right person in the job that can manage this budget in the right way and according to the job description. So I don't think that the finance director has necessarily any relationship to the experience or the requirements related to our administrator.
Anything else to go before the finance committee? Not, we're adjourned.
Right here, this,
So I just gave them the finance.
Yeah, I can,
Share. I don't.
I can email it in a PDF.
No, I can give you that. I got it. Okay.
yeah.
I like paper too.
It's actually in the job description. Yeah. 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 Agree. Yeah. Yeah, we need to, well, we have that, but it's not been updated since 2016. We need to update that to what they're doing now.
Yeah, I saw that.
That being said, that's, you know, the rules of the village. of how we spend money and,
Because we looked at.
It's 6:20, and at this time, I'd like to call the Water and Sewer Committee meeting to order to discuss the purchase of a replacement for a broken gearbox. How you doing, Ricky? You care to
Good.
explain this expense to us, please?
Actually, this is a broken, unforeseen item that was not budgeted. It's a broken gearbox in our aeration ditch. That part helps the bugs to thrive. It keeps everything moving. Right now with that gearbox down, what they do is if you ever drive down there, you'll see a series of rotating discs. And they alternate those where they're not the same amount of runtime on them. Right now, they're having to run one continuously instead of switching this one out. Ask Chris Kleckner to pull it, send it back to Wascon, who usually does about 99% of our service work. They deem that to not be repairable because of the broken gears, the teeth in the gears. So we got two prices on replacing. Wascon was at 23,913.59. Motion Industries was 19,251.61. You look at they've added tags, so we would take that off, of course, but we can replace it ourselves. It's something that needs to be done as far as the budget goes. We did put some extra money in for our part of the CDBG grant. We will not use those funds this fiscal year, so we can use money out of that repair and maintenance to replace that.
Would you have to bring it out of your regular budget, or would it be out of the enterprise fund?
It would be enterprise fund.
You have the money there.
I mean, it would be coming out of a budgeted line item, which is replacement repair equipment. So we have enough money to cover that in that budget because we will not use that full $80,000 into that CDBG match.
Okay, right. It's still out of the enterprise fund.
Yes,
not of
sir.
the general fund.
Yeah, it's all out of the enterprise fund. Yes.
Are there any questions on this item of the committee? I'll entertain a motion to accept this expense as
So moved.
proposed. Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much, Ricky. I don't believe that there's any further business for the Water and Sewer Committee at this time.
That's
Yes.
a recommendation of the board.
That's correct. That's correct. It is. And this meeting is adjourned. To suspend, Ricky, can I ask another question? How immediate is this? Is this something that you would like us to entertain suspending the rules to get that tonight?
I would because
We've been with us for about 3 or 4 months.
Okay, is that, okay, so thank you, Ricky. We'll,
Things aren't getting done, you're just running on one pump.
yeah, one thing, well, there's actually 5 of those gearboxes with the disc. The one thing about Motion was it had a ship date of a delivery date of 3/16/22. So we're still looking, a month out. So that's if he orders it tomorrow. So
Yeah, but 2 weeks from now, when you get it approved, it may be 6 months out.
it could be with COVID, we never know. So
well, that's why I thought maybe we could suspend the rules and get it on the agenda tonight to authorize his expense and get it moving a little faster.
I'll put it under new business.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
He's fabulous.
Not necessarily stop signs.
The speed limit is a ordinance.
I think that's an ordinance.
Yeah, it is. I think that's an ordinance.
Oh.
It's a law. It's
Yeah.
gotta be enforced. Maybe just a mixture. I know.
You know that the department said it's still looking at.
Yeah, we have an active grant that's just gotten through the environmental phase and it's now in the design phase. So TDOT.
Yeah, there have been 7. pedestrian fatalities.
I believe in roughly a year from now. Construction. Yeah. We were delayed quite a bit by TDOT dropping the ball on environmental. So our consultant is pushing that, using that to maintain our level. Yeah, rigs and balloon
Boxes. It's gonna go in there.
I can't even. Surface one.
And that may be possible. I think we just need to get out there and make sure it is.
On his side.
Right. Mhm.
When you get up to the top, I can cross the street and go down my property.
Well, at your tennis court, it drops off.
Who cares? I can cut it. It's big.
Is there a shoulder there where you can put a sidewalk before it drops off? Like after the court, like between steps.
And I give them.
Okay, it's 6:30 now. I'm going to call the Parks and Rec Committee meeting to order. Okay, at 6:30, I'm going to call the Parks and Rec meeting to order now. The first item on the agenda is to discuss the car show in the lower parking lot of the Milner Center, and Justin is going to tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, we were, a guy named Michael Parsons reached out to our front desk, and I then reached out to him. They were looking to have a car show April 16th from 10 to 2. This car show last year was at the mall in their parking lot, and they were looking to move it over to the Milner Center and wanted to use our lower parking lot. Possibly 250 entries is what they're looking at. It's going to be pretty large. There's about 30 men that help organize this. Again, they talked about bringing in a food truck and having a DJ. I've met with our staff, and we personally we'll be done with basketball by then. Our league, which is going on right now, which takes up quite a bit of parking, but I don't feel that it's an issue for us. Just wanted to get y'all's approval on it, see what you thought. So.
I guess I had a couple of questions. What about the DJ? That kind of concerns me a little bit as far as noise goes. Are we worried about that, or
well,
where would they be?
It's I don't know that, and our running electrical to that. We've got an outlet on the outside of our building on that front parking lot side. I'm not aware of any electrical down lower, so that could definitely be an issue. I spoke to Mark Kale, head of maintenance, about that. We were definitely going to look into that. The food truck wouldn't be a problem. They could bring that in and park it pretty much anywhere they wanted, maybe over towards the West Elementary side or whatever. I was a little concerned about our parking for our customers, our patrons, which I did say if it was approved, we would like to see some signage where we could direct because our facility is still going to be open. It's going to remain open that day, but the event's from 10 a.m. to 2. So it's a daytime event, should be done and wrapped up and moved out. But yeah, I don't know about the noise.
And so we've got enough space for the cars and the people that are going to park and look at the cars.
I think so. I think what we would, again, if we had proper signage, we could encourage most folks to park in the back parking lot, come down the sidewalk on Garfield and come in the front entry. Or if they were coming to the car show, also parking in the back. You know, when we had the smoking in McMinnville, the back parking lot was occupied. Everyone parked in the front, walked across the lawn and came there. So we would kind of reverse that, do something different. But if we have proper signage, I think we could make it work.
And the civic center is open until late that night.
8 p.m.
8 o'clock.
Yep.
Got enough room? 260 cars. Fill it up.
It's going to fill it up. I mean, those guys, I spoke to Michael Parsons and he said the 30 men that organize this event, they direct these guys in and have them park like, you know, the way they want them to park. And I remember the event at the mall last year. It was massive. It took up a great portion of their parking lot from Penny's over. You know, they were in that section. It didn't go down as far as Rose's, I don't remember, but it was big. It was a big event. So.
What about trash?
Yes. Yeah, we could provide cans. We've got plenty of cans around our complex. So we could provide that and have cans set out to make sure that that was disposed of properly. Shouldn't be a problem. I also have a maintenance guy that works Saturdays. So he could be available, a golf cart, a gator, something like that to help go around and pull those bags if they start to overflow.
What about the shining for cause? You know about that?
I don't, other than as I've put in here, it's a benefit for 5 families with cancer patients.
That's who did it.
Yeah.
At the mall, and
Yes, ma'am.
they decide where this money goes.
Yes, ma'am. I believe so. And I sent you Michael Parsons' number, right? Did you get that, or did I? I don't know. I thought I texted to you because you mentioned contacting him, but I did speak to him directly. So
Or is there a fee or anything that's associated with this proposal?
we don't have anything set up for our parking lot. Maybe electrical. I mean, if they want to run electricity off the building, but that's just I don't know what their DJ setup is going to be, but
My only concern with this is the fact that, that I know when we rent, or we, allow people to use the other parts of the facility, we waive fees if they're a nonprofit. That would be kind of one of my only concerns, with this, is their status, and whether we're waiving fees or if there's costs that's a burden to the city.
Probably a good opportunity to showcase the.
we're going to get a lot of foot traffic. Yeah, we're going to get a lot of foot traffic for sure. I'm sure there'll be a lot of folks wanting to walk in the facility and take a look at it, and yeah, definitely.
Is there any action to be taken? Do we need to motion this? I don't. We did.
If we're gonna be using our electric and our cans, we gotta dedicate, maybe we ought to charge this. Especially since we don't know anything about the organization. What do they want to do?
When?
When?
April 17th, April 16th, sorry.
So it's before the pool. It's after the ball games, the varsity.
Get some more information about this group.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can do that.
And
I'm
maybe
not part of
about
this
their
committee, but
electrical.
I can do that.
Spend money that, I mean, I just, I don't know anything about it or whatever. Let's say it's a benefit for families that are suffering with cancer, that have cancer patients within the family. It says that, but I'd like to see something else. Maybe if they're local, are they local families, that information would probably be.
Sure. Okay.
501c3. They don't have to be, but no. Put the bona fides out there.
I'm not trying to challenge this actual cause or these families. I worry about precedent and policy. If somebody else wants to come along and have an event for one of their family members or something, it becomes a sticky situation.
Well, I didn't hear anything bad about it at the mall. But we can always find out. I'd like to find out about the electrical. If it doesn't work, we don't have to do it again.
Right.
We can find out if it's.
I mean,
local.
electricity that's zero. That's no cost to us.
You said you had to run a line.
I mean, can they not set up there where close to where they,
Yeah.
that could be up to them,
Yeah.
wherever that.
Because they're gonna take a big part of that project, biggest part. They can set that up where there is no.
I worry a little bit about complaints of gunning engines and things like that. We've had some problems in the past, but it doesn't come up. But I think to find out if they're local is good.
Okay.
And to find out about the electricity.
I'm fine with it. It's 4 hours. It's music. We have music at the pool every day of the whole summer. True.
Yeah, and it's before the pool opens, so there's not any crossover with the parking lot.
Seems like a good event to me, a good place for it.
Do we want to take action, and then if there's a problem?
I'm okay. Either way.
I agree with y'all that I think the fact that they've had it before, it's been successful in the past, but I still think a little bit more information would help to make sure that we're sticking to our policy of that it is a charitable.
You can also check with the mall.
Right.
There's a experience.
I'll contact you.
Okay, that's fine. We'll just get more information.
What
We've
about
got plenty of
insurance?
time.
Should we, is that something we need to,
What is it?
insurance?
Say yes.
Liability insurance. Liability insurance. Right. Okay. Yes.
And you did send me that.
Yes, ma'am.
And there are some state requirements on fundraising for causes like this to prevent scamming. And you might ask for the water bites. They should be showing something.
Okay.
So do we want to table that for the next meeting? Is there anything else with that? We'll go on. If there's not, we'll go on to the second item on the agenda, and that's to consider the purchase of the mower for Pistol Park.
Yes, so this past year, we took over mowing, not just our fields, but outside our fields at Pistol Park. Urban Forestry mowed that before, but because they're so busy, our department took that on. We are requesting a John Deere Z930M Z-Track mower. It's a commercial grade mower. Again, it won't be used to mow our fields. We have that mower. We mow the Bermuda with that mower, but this one will actually mow the perimeter. Right now, we're currently using a Skag that we're mowing our baseball fields with, just loading on a trailer and taking it out there. But during mowing season, it's quite a bit of mowing that we're doing. One guy goes out there and mows pretty much all day. So, yeah, we would like to, if approved, we'd like to purchase this mower. Urban Forestry Department, Hank just recently got this same mower. So it is.
I'll make the motion that we move forward with the recommendation of the John Deere 7930M Z-Track for $9,900 and change.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That's all we have on the agenda as of now. Is there any other business anybody wants to talk about? If not, meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
It is just after 6:40, and we will open a public hearing to hear public comments on amending the zoning ordinance of McMinnville, Tennessee to establish requirements for accessory detached dwelling units in C2 General Commercial District. The public is invited to provide comment. Hearing no comments from the public, we will consider this hearing closed.
Yeah, it is the speed spot. I bet you.
Oh, I've got an Apple Watch, but I haven't worn it forever.
It would also catch me speeding down the hill. Get some good momentum there.
I would always get the
Climb
speedy
up,
one done, but
exactly.
the exercise one, like I could run, bike, row, do whatever, and
I
I would
believe
never
it by the
move.
time I get up there. I'm out of breath.
Oh, okay.
I want to really, speaking of what they're saying, speed limits on Harrison, going down to Mount Gallagher. They've got so sophisticated.
Yeah, the mom.
Tripped out. He's a bad boy on that ride. That's the way you invest with him. I would. So you used to live up there? I used to have a cruising. And I would say that it's like you have. And I dropped off some dollars. And never paid for it, just to stay with my. Well, the love of truth.
So it's kind of weird.
I said, just out of curiosity, how fast are you going? He was like, 6 miles an hour. That's right. Bloody eating it. You get a one rock that good.
See him rec center and like every day playing racquetball.
You would stop sliding till you halfway.
That's what everybody says.
I tell you what, going down with yeah, it was an 18 speed, so it had a grinding gear. But I would be cranking so hard. Right, so slow, you know, I would barely be able to keep the back.
Yeah. It is 6:50. We'll open a public hearing to hear comments on amending the zoning ordinance of McMinnville, Tennessee to establish requirements for 2-family dwelling units in C1 central commercial districts. The public is invited to provide comments. Hearing no public comment, we will consider this hearing closed.
For some case or something. Not too often wrong. That allowed In-laws or, you know what I'm talking about? Attendant structures, residential dwelling.
Like a state law?
Something, some rule from somewhere. I mean,
If there is, I can't think of what it is. David may know.
a tiny
Tiny home.
thing. That's what they're doing at home, isn't it?
But they don't have any zoning out in the county.
So would that get, could they do that in town?
No.
No.
No, you possibly could do it. Set it up as a PRD, which is a planned residential development, kind of like Jim Barks, where he lives. Possibly.
I did that in church. And that's how that-
But they got in trouble for that.
I saw that same thing on Channel 4 News. National news.
I also know that
Hospital bishops were down.
I guess not added to the story or proving any point, but saw on the news discussion again about, the city owns this property throughout Nashville. Why can we not build some type of facility? I've never watched the story or anything, but it's still being talked about, I think. I have identified some sources of possible funding for things like that, including halfway houses. We met with, I think it's THDA 2 weeks ago. She had some really good ideas. So there may be some funding available for
low income. Doesn't need it.
He had a lot.
See that on the tourist. It's probably tourist. Who is? Why they're all sleeping? They're just all over the place.
But they did, you know, now there's video.
To get the building removed.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have a quorum of persons who can vote.
We talked to David about that. David.
Yeah, he mentioned it to me. Told him, I don't mind telling Bobby, you know, if he wants to go faster instead of slower, you know, stepping off.
It is 7 o'clock. We will call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the McMinnville City Board of Mayor and Aldermen. The first item on the agenda is roll call.
All the board members are present, motion is staying.
Thank you. Second item on the agenda is consideration of minutes. All the members of the board should have received those in their agenda packet. If there be no requests for additions, corrections, or deletions, I'll entertain a motion to dispense with those as read. Have a motion by Mr. Everett Brock. Second by Mr. Stacy Harvey. All in favor? Aye, motion passes. Item 3 is recognition of visitors. If any member of the public wishes to address the board, please approach the podium and state your name for the record.
Evening. Bruce Satnip, live at 148 Beach Hill Drive. I also work with our Heritage Alliance group, as you know, that runs the museum next door to this building. Just wanted to take just a quick moment. I have a letter I'd like to leave with you folks, if our helper would be so kind. This is in relation to the last remaining original sidewalk or brick sidewalk in historic downtown. The one right across from Hardee's. A lot of people have thought it was installed by the property owner. But if you do your history, all of downtown at one point had those herringbone brick sidewalks similar to the ones still there. There's actually 5 layers of those outside this building. If you could dig down in front of the brick sidewalk as we did back in 2004 and 5. I counted down as far as I could dig on one occasion at one of those places and counted 5 layers of those, which are vital to our history. It shows an importance, and there's enough brick that the city removed on that occasion that very possibly that sidewalk could be preserved as the last remaining bit of that history. It's about 100 years old, being put in about 1920. And our heritage group and others that have shown interest and spoken to me would like to see that preserved and not just replaced with the concrete that, looking at the end of the street there, doesn't hold up as well as the bricks that have been there at least 100 years and still asking to give more service. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. The next item on the agenda is recognition of employees. There are several department heads here this evening. If anyone wishes to give recognition to city employees, time is now.
I'd kind of like to recognize my whole department. We've been men short, been people sick. They've been some that stepped up and filled in for others as they were sick or whatever, or off. And I just like to recognize our whole department, just doing a good job of everything and not fussing about having to do another job or anything. I think they've done real good.
I'll give them my regards. Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
Frank.
Anybody else? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 5, communications. We have 2 in our packet tonight from Ms. Cassell Davis. The first being about pinwheels for prevention. If you want to.
Yes, so April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And for the last 2 years, well, I know the last few years, we've done with the Exchange Club where they do the Field of Flags for Child Abuse Prevention Month. And then we started in 2020 also turning that field into a field of pinwheels. And so we're just requesting to be able to use the lot again so that we can put the Field of Flags and the pinwheels out. Pinwheels are a symbol of people who are victims of child abuse, but also who are survivors. And so we want to honor all of them. So we're just asking for permission to use the lot. And I think that I had put the dates from April 15th to April 30th. I think though, usually we just do like, it's usually they have to mow, so I have to take them up. So the pinwheels, so just for however long we can is fine.
Are you gonna sell pinwheels as well like you did before?
Yes, we'll be selling pinwheel gardens, and they're just kind of in little metal containers with, we put the fake grass, but it looks pretty, and the pinwheels in, and it's so that businesses can put them in their windows or on their desks and show support for child abuse victims. And it also helps to raise money for us, but raising awareness is the most important thing. So
Well, I'll entertain a motion to approve the first letter.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Ms. Kirby, second by Mr. Brock, all in favor. Aye. Motion passes. And then the second letter also by Ms. Davis is regarding the Angels Spring Fest Gala.
yes, so we haven't had the gala since 2019. It's our largest fundraiser that we have. It raises about $35,000 to $40,000 a year. And that's been a big hit for us to not have it. We have canceled it twice and we're really excited to move forward with it. We usually have it in the fall. We're going to be having it in the spring during Child Abuse Awareness Month. And we're asking for donation of the Milner Recreation Center, the gymnasium, to have it there, which will help us tremendously with our budget as far as having the gala. We are hoping to have a big turnout. We're already selling tables. The gala will be April 9th, and which is a Saturday. It's traditionally been on a Thursday. It'll be from 6:30 till 10 o'clock.
This is something that we've done a couple of times here recently for different nonprofit organizations. So I would ask for a motion by somebody to approve it for.
So
the child.
moved.
Motion by Ms. Brock,
I'll second it.
second by Ms. Kirby. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Cassell.
Thank you all very much.
The next item on the agenda is a public hearing to hear comments on amending the zoning ordinance of McMinnville, Tennessee to rezone 2459 and 2461 Smithville Highway from I-1 Light Industrial to C2 General Commercial. The public is invited to provide comment. Hearing no public comments, we will consider this hearing closed. Item 7 is petitions. There are none. Item 8 is unfinished business. Do any members of the board have any unfinished business to discuss this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 9, new business. Coming from the Water and Wastewater Committee, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules regarding public notice so that we can discuss the purchase of a gearbox replacement for aerator number 5 for the Water and Wastewater Department.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey and a second by Miss Sally Brock. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. So up for discussion, the purchasing of a replacement gearbox for aerator number 5. Mr. Harvey or Mr. Morton, do y'all have any additional comment or anything about the?
No, sir, I would just ask the board to vote on accepting this bid so we can move this project forward for the Water and Sewer Department.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Kirby,
Second.
second by Ms. Second by Ms. Brock.
You said that the people that had the high bid are the ones that you normally use for doing your maintenance and everything?
Repair.
Will they work on this other people's stuff if something happens to this one?
If something happens to this, they would install it for us. Yes. Or you're talking about it.
I'm talking about the people that normally do the
Yes.
repair work,
If it went down, they would work on it. That's not an issue,
even though it's not there.
even though they're not selling it to us.
Okay. All right, never mind. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Everett Brock,
All right.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Zach Sutton,
Aye.
Mayor Chastain.
Motion passes. Any other new business to come before the board this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 10, resolutions. Item 10A is resolution number 2162, a resolution to authorize the city of McMinnville to accept a bid from Cripps Roofing for removal of the membrane roof, deck installation, and replacement of the same at 101 East Main Street in the amount not to exceed $143,120 in accordance with specifications of the McMinnville City Administrator or Administrative Department. To authorize the city administrator to issue the necessary purchase order on behalf of the city and to express the time when the resolution becomes effective. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey, a second by Mr. Everett Brock. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Everett Brock,
Aye.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Zach Sutton,
Aye.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Resolution 10B is resolution number 2163, a resolution of the city of McMinnville to enter in an agreement with James C. Haley and Company to provide engineering services for the water treatment plant upgrades and to express the time when the resolution becomes effective. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a motion by Miss Sally Brock, a second by Mr. Stacy Harvey. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Everett Brock,
Aye.
Rachel Kirby. Yes. Frank Sutton,
Aye.
Mayor Chester.
Aye, motion passes. Item 11 is ordinances. Item 11A is ordinance number 1825, an ordinance of the city of McMinnville to amend chapter 2 and chapter 5 of title 14 of the official zoning code, which is the official zoning code of the city of McMinnville, to amend the definition of accessory attached dwelling units, to insert the definition of accessory detached dwelling units, and to add a provision for the use of accessory detached dwelling units in the general commercial district as a special exception use, and to set the date that this ordinance shall become effective. This is the first reading. Do I have a motion to approve? A motion by Mr. Everett Brock, second by Mr. Steve Harvey. Katie?
All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. We have 3 ordinances tonight. The first one, the accessory detached dwelling unit. This is a ordinance that was brought to us by a citizen who wanted the planning commission to look into this use, and the planning commission agreed and asked the staff to do some analysis, which is in your staff your packet. After deliberation and consideration of the draft amendment that we created for the planning commission, they did vote to recommend this to the board of mayor and aldermen. And I invite Rachel and Ryle if you guys have any additional comments on the deliberation of the planning commission.
A lot of thought and a lot of work went into that,
Yeah.
into getting this to make it more so you could have a more residential area without affecting the main front or facade. It's got to be in the back.
And more of these are kind of starting to pop up throughout the city limits. So it just makes it easier on the property owners to do this if they choose.
What were they doing with these buildings before?
This building, do you mean this?
Well, you gave us some
Oh, so
examples here, and they look like residential places already.
That's right. So the way we went about, one of the ways we went about doing the analysis is we did a windshield survey of existing detached accessory structures. Now, these could be non-conforming uses that have been there for decades. And some of them are currently vacant, but they have been used as a single family home as a dwelling unit previously. And so there's an example of that as well. So we looked at those to get a sense of what was already in existence, as Ryle said, in the city, and then use that to draft the amendment, figuring out the gross square footage, its relationship to the primary building, that kind of thing.
So some of them may have been grandfathered in.
Yeah, non-conforming.
Yeah, I could add to that real quick. As Katie said, when we started this analysis, we knew of a few locations in town where detached accessory dwellings were, and it was not a problem. And so we found those locations, gave that to the planning commission for their review, and that kind of made people feel comfortable with the concept. And we looked at what percentage and it was working and what was not working. So it was really kind of looking at what was existing beforehand. So the ones that the ones that are in your list or in your packet, those were non-conforming properties that were built prior to probably even a zoning ordinance may have existed. So they were long-standing properties.
You think it will get people to build something on their property?
Well, it may. I mean, I think it's hard to know in the mind of someone who owns a commercial business if they want to have a residential use in the back. It could be for someone who wants to live on the property with their business. It could be this individual who came forward has a building that served as a kind of just a garage, an accessory building for many years. And he came to the department to turn it into a dwelling unit, and we just didn't have that use available. So he started this. So he's seen that building in the back of his property that's not really doing much right now and sees an opportunity to provide a home to someone. So if he's any indication, then it sounds like we may have some takers on this one. And we have, if you remember, we did the attached accessory dwelling unit a couple years ago, and we have had several people step forward to do that, to take on that special exception. So if that's any indication as well.
I can't really see a downside.
I mean, this actually gives property owners more opportunities, more uses to do with their property.
That's right, but still respect the commercial, as Rachel said, the real commercial heart of that district and what the district really intended for at the same time. It's a good balance.
How did, just out of curiosity, downtown where you've got a commercial district, how did it get so that we could build apartments upstairs? Because they're not detached, or was that the?
When the zoning code that we have now, which was adopted in, I think, 95, within C1, they had, when they drafted that zoning code, placed mixed use in C1 as a potential use. And from Main Street, my Main Street experience, Main Street organizations have been on a campaign to have that type of use in downtowns because it returns the downtowns to what they may have been like in the 1940s and 50s in their heyday.
I know, but these places have been there for 10 or 15 years. I mean,
Yeah, so
fairly recently, but
so in 95 is when that use would have become available in C1, at least within the zoning code. Now, I'm not sure what was in the zoning code prior, and maybe also have been in that one as well. But I do know since 95, this would have been a use that someone could have taken advantage of, or excuse me, what you're talking about, that mixed use could have been a use that someone could have taken advantage of since then. So almost 20 years. I think we were quite progressive actually when we did that. So that's pretty.
I think it's great that they have it downtown. I'm just curious about how that came about, considering it wasn't.
We'll have to take you on a time ship, Everett. We'll go together.
Okay.
Any further discussion on ordinance 1825? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Everett Brock.
Aye.
Steve Harvey.
Yes.
Sally Brock.
Yes.
Stacy Harvey.
Aye.
Rachel Kirby.
Yes.
Zach Sutton.
Aye.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 11B is ordinance number 1826, an ordinance of the city of McMinnville to amend chapter 5 of title 14 of the official zoning code of the city of McMinnville, which is the official zoning code of the city of McMinnville, to add a provision for the use of 2-family dwellings in the central commercial district as a permitted use, and to set the date that the ordinance shall become effective. This is the first reading. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey, second by Mr. Everett Brock. Katie again.
Yes, so speaking of C1, this was a use that when we did the kind of the initial code review, we realized there was a gap in C1. Their single-family homes were a permitted use, and multifamily homes are a use available as a special exception, but 2-family homes weren't. So this is just an amendment to plug that gap. We had to do the same thing for C2 a couple years ago. We just didn't realize we had that problem. So when the Planning Commission took this up, they recommended it to you all for the decision.
Any questions or discussion?
Motion to approve.
Yeah, we've got a motion and a second. Be no discussion, we'll call for the vote.
Stacy Harvey.
Aye.
Everett Brock.
Aye.
Sally Brock.
Yes.
Steve Harvey.
Yes.
Rachel Kirby.
Yes.
Zach Sutton.
Aye.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 11C is ordinance number 1827, an ordinance of the city of McMinnville to change the zoning classification of a property located at 2459 Smithville Highway from I-1 light industrial to C2 general commercial, and to express the time when the ordinance should become effective. This is the first reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey. Sally Brock. Discussion or questions on the matter? Hearing none.
I think it's totally appropriate for that piece of property.
Yeah.
No doubt.
The planning commission felt that way and wondered if I remember how it got that way to start with was kind of interesting, just mysterious.
We, what the best we can tell is it was annexed in C2 and it stayed that way until it looks like about 2010. There was a comprehensive rezoning when they updated a map. So they rezoned a few different things and that was one thing that was rezoned to I-1. And I think the planning commission thought what might have been the case is Bolden and Lawson may have had an office at that time in this building. So they just rezoned it in order to match the use that was there at the time. So which was, of course, Bolden and Lawson has since given up that building and it's now in hands who are wanting to use it for its commercial use. So this would just be restoring it to how it's been envisioned since the beginning.
Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Everett Brock,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Zach Sutton,
Aye.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 12 is departmental reports. Before the meeting, Mr. Ming asked for the first go with this one, so the chair recognizes Nolan Ming.
Okay, as you know, we've been working to hire our Parks and Rec director, and we've come to a decision. And our next Parks and Rec director has worked at the Parks and Rec department since 2007 and has been the assistant director since 2013. Everybody, he's in the room. Please welcome Justin Scott. That's all I had.
Any other department heads wish to address the board?
You were a lifeguard before that, right?
1997.
97.
What's that?
I think Frank was kidding.
No, I'm grateful, excited. Would encourage you to come by the Milner anytime. Glad to talk to you about what our staff is doing and excited about it. Our staff they're a great staff. And so, just thrilled to be in this position. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Me too. There's classes all the time, tennis,
Yeah.
basketball, pickleball, you name it.
Yeah, I went on a random Tuesday last week and it was full.
It's full.
Everywhere. It was a lot of people there. It's like it was when we were kids.
That's right.
That far back?
Well, I hope everyone got to see the motorcycle out front. We finally got it striped and everything. I think it looks really good and we're excited and be out on the thing, riding, trying to slow speeders down in areas that we have issues with. And I also want to let everyone know, we just hired another officer. He started yesterday where she's doing paperwork and stuff, and his name is Zebulon Roberts, Zeb. He's not here tonight. He was here earlier today, but he didn't know I was going to mention his name. So you'll see another face, strange face, but you'll get used to it. All right, that's all I have.
How much are you on the road with this bike?
How much are we on the road with it? Well, we're going to be on the road with it quite a bit during the day. He's one of our riders and Bobby Anderson's the other. So we'll probably have it out in the evening. Now that the weather's getting better. Of course, I think the seat is the seat heated. No, the handlebars are heated. So then they can stand a little coldness. They'll be all right. So we're trying to have it out as much as possible. Get them to get used to riding and everybody used to seeing it. And, we'll have it in special events too, as well, at the strip coming up and things like that. So
You have onboard radar.
they have it. It's a handheld LiDAR. So we'll be running
And
that
you're gonna
too.
put lights on it next year. Parade.
Well,
Christmas parade.
it's got lights.
Well,
You want the Christmas lights? Might have a decorated hat or something
Yeah.
maybe.
We need to decorate the building.
Yeah, I think it would look good. He's not opposed to that at all, I don't think.
Thank you, Chief. Anybody else? Mr. Purtle?
The last and final notice of the delinquent tax sale were posted today. The sales market went beginning at 1 o'clock and it's online.
Thank you, sir.
I'll report back.
Guess I did have one more thing. An update on the Blue Building, Reno and Kavanaugh contract. We've spent $1,300.
The next item, 13, is announcements. I have 3. The Chamber of Commerce sent the city an invitation to the Chamber Banquet on March 28th at 5:30 as part of our membership. We are given a table or 2. If anyone wishes to attend on the city's behalf, just let Nolan know and he can get seats reserved. The next, we also received an invitation for the Black History Month event at the Bernard School on February 19th at noon. And that is put on by the Black History Museum and Young Men United. And then we also have the Super Bowl chili cook-off, SOUPER, February 11th from 11 to 1 at the Milner Center. And Libby, are you still looking for judges?
No, I have fulfilled my obligation for getting judges, but I would encourage each of you to come out. All of our employees are going to be there and they're cooking. So it would be great if you guys can stop by and grab a bowl. We have a lot of soup and chili. Turns out there's a passion for cookers within our midst.
Any other announcements by the board or administration? Hearing none, we will stand adjourned. Thank you all. March 28th is the Chamber Banquet. The Black History is February 19th.
February 19th.
Yeah, Super Bowl, February 11th.